Hey guys, welcome to this video in the series. In the warm-up, we're just a few days away from actually kicking off the challenge. And this week, as you know, we've been really focused on foundations and mindset and what really has to change in order for you to be someone who's ready and able to level up and achieve something in your life that is vastly out of your comfort zone. And in yesterday's training, you know that we started talking about this thing called your glass ceiling, or these invisible boundaries that we put on what we think is capable, and how your belief patterns are actually the very thing that is running your life and you don't even know it. So in today's video, this is like a part 2 where we're going to be covering a topic, closing the gap. So there is a gap between where you are literally right now and where you want to be. So we're going to be going into actually one of our training modules from Mindset program in our product launchpad, which is our group coaching mentorship program for those that are actually launching products online. And so as you can tell, this is a critical part of our training, and I'm really excited to dive into it. Today's video is going to be a lot longer because it's more of a lesson, but please do make the time for it because this training will change your life. And if you're just showing up to this training today and you maybe missed the last couple of trainings before this, be sure to watch videos 1, 2, and 3 in the series before you watch this video, which is video number 4. So let's dive into closing the gap. Hey guys, welcome to module 2.4. This module we are focusing on how to close the gap, which is the space between, really the difference between who you are today in your current self and the self that you need to become in order to achieve your desired life and achieve your goals. I've mentioned several times in this week that who you are today is not capable of achieving your dreams and desires without transcending yourself, your current belief system, and your stories. And I've covered a little bit about why that happens, but in this module, we're actually going to be doing a deep dive into exactly what is going on with your brain and why we tend to sabotage our life and when things start to go well for us. Now, the reason really why you will struggle to achieve your dreams and goals effortlessly as your current self is that when you start to take action, your current self is going to start feeling some serious resistance, anxiety, unhappiness, and really you will feel that shadow that's just pulling at your heels that we identified in that first week, because your character is going to be fighting you to keep its identity and keep you where you are today. So in terms of closing the gap, a really huge component of actually being able to evolve or transcend yourself and become the new person that you need to become and that you defined in the last module, there's going to be some we're going to cover the understanding and how sabotage actually shows up in your life and how your character really tries to sneak up and take back control by manipulating you. And so we're going to be looking at a few examples, looking at why self-sabotage happens, and even really what to do with it. And then we're going to be closing off week 2 with some daily practices to help you manage the downside. So we have this fundamental, I guess like society has this fundamental belief that you can never have happiness in all areas of your life forever, that there's always going to be a source of unhappiness and in some aspect of your life. So when things start to go really well for you, there's this fear that starts to creep in. Like, for example, if you win the lottery, you may start to fear that your friends and family are going to start spending the money and you're going to end up bankrupt in a couple years. Or maybe you finally found the love of your life, but because you've had so many breakups in the past, you don't fundamentally feel that you're either deserving of that love or you don't feel that that love will last. And so you may do something to cause you to break intimacy or whatever. Or you finally get that dream job, and there's always a fear in the back of your mind that someone or something is going to take that away from you. So we fundamentally as humans are we always seem to have our one foot out the door, because things never quite seem to stay good forever. And so we're always waiting for the moment when it's going to trip us up. And really life is at its best when love, money, and creativity and the work you do are growing together and you're experiencing a sense of happiness. But as your current self, when in this week, we've really identified who you need to become. And I bet right now you're feeling super inspired and motivated, and you may be feeling super uncomfortable at this point in the training. And that is completely normal. But it's important to know that when you start to make gains and take action toward your dream life and your goals and start to really leave your comfort zone, you will be facing that resistance. So let's dive into exactly why that resistance happens, why you may experience self-sabotaging behavior, and how to actually avoid self-sabotaging behavior so that you can make positive gains forward without feeling like you're falling back. So in this module, here's what we're covering. We're going to be covering this idea called the upper limit. So this is a concept that I'm taking from The Big Leap, which is a book, comes highly recommended by Gay Hendricks. So he really found a great way to look at our tolerance for happiness in life in terms of a thermostat setting, and that we really have a upper tolerance or an upper limit for the level of happiness we let ourselves have. And then this idea called the comfort zone. So this is not something that's new to you, but I want to introduce it to you as a way to understand yourself a little better. We're then looking at the source of self-sabotage, really what causes you to have these destructive behaviors, these negative thought patterns, this shadow, why your character has this current shadow that just seems to make anytime you start to make gains in one area of your life, be it health, wellness, fitness, or whatever, there's always something that tends to want to pull you back to where you feel comfortable. And then we're going to be capping off this module by talking about your patterns of existence and starting to identify where sabotage comes up in your life, what are some of the markers, and how to manage the downsides so that you are able to sabotage less and continue your upward trajectory as you start to make gains toward becoming a new version of yourself. Do you ever feel, or have you ever experienced this in the past, where you go through a period in your life of feeling really good? It could be for a week or 2 weeks, or maybe it's a couple years. And then all of a sudden you seem to do something to mess it up. Okay. When you do something to kind of put a wrench in your level of feeling good in life, or you feeling good in life, perhaps you've been on a great diet, to lose weight, you got off ice cream and bread, and you were really good for about 45 days, and all of a sudden you just have a lapse of judgment and you go and eat a chocolate cake. So all the positive feelings that you had, the feel good, you lost like 10 or 20 pounds by getting off wheat and ice cream, but then you went and had some negative self-behavior where you then go and seemingly ruin it by eating that chocolate cake. So why does it happen? Or when you say, another example is you get a promotion at work, your family life is going really well, you have a great sales year, you get Christmas bonus, all these things, everything is just like the stars are aligning. But then all of a sudden you go and cheat on your wife, or you go and you gamble, you gamble and you lose thousands of dollars. Why do these negative behaviors crop up when things seem to go really well in life? So we're going to be taking a look at really defining why that happens in terms of understanding how you're wired. So in your life, you have two things. You have your comfort zone, which is the zone of low anxiety. It's safe. It's what you know. Okay. It's really where you are comfortable in life. So comfort zone is where your security, low anxiety, low stress. Okay. So that's where your comfort zone is. But to really grow, and as you grow up and you start to experience new things, like for example, I shared my skydiving story or my bungee jumping story. Okay. When I start to say, ooh, I'm going to start doing something that scares me, the further out of my comfort zone I get, and as soon as I leave that comfort zone and do things that I'm going to feel an increased sense of anxiety. I'm going to feel a sense of no security. It's unfamiliar territory. And when I start to leave my comfort zone, I get into a point where I start to come up against what Gay Hendricks called the upper limit in his book, The Big Leap. So your upper limit is your limit of happiness that you feel. And if you go past your upper limit in something, all of a sudden your mind freaks out because it doesn't know what to do with this. Okay. So in the pattern of existence worksheet that we're going to get into later in this module, we're going to really define this through different areas so you can actually put some like numbers behind it. But a really great example of this is like, for example, when I first started in business, I had an upper limit of how much money that I would feel comfortable having in my bank account before I would just say, oh, great, cool. So I have, and that number for me was $5,000. So if I had $5,000, I felt like I was rich, and suddenly I would just start to go out to restaurants every night. I would spend outside of the budget, and I would like burn through cash really quickly. And then all of a sudden I only have $1,000 left in my bank. And that's my panic mode, because suddenly I'm not safe. So those limits are like my comfort zone. And we have, from our childhood, we have self-imposed limits of what is comfortable for us and what is safe. And as soon as we leave that safety net, our brain starts to freak out. So when you start to, up until this point, we've defined who your current self is. We've also taken a look at who the person is that you want to become. And you also identified some character traits and things that you're going to have to do in order to become that new person. And what you're going to notice is that the new becoming self has to do things, has to believe things, and has certain character traits that are way out of your comfort zone today. So what's going to happen when you start to take action towards becoming the new version of yourself and changing your beliefs and doing things that are out of your current comfort zone, that are not defined by your current identity, you are going to self-sabotage. And this is exactly why you may make small, as your current self, you may be thinking, well, I've made small gains and small progress towards my goals. Yes, but then you do something to sabotage it and it brings you back down. Okay? So I want to make something clear, that when you do take action to, you've defined your dream life, and if I'm saying you as your current self are not going to be able to hit that dream life and those goals, what I'm saying with that is you're not going to be able to do it easily, because your current character has a lot working against it. And the reason for that is because of your self-imposed limitations, the upper limit. And because your character exists within your comfort zone, and even as it gets close to its upper limit, it has a upper tolerance for how much happiness and success that it can handle. Something I heard a few years ago is like, most people are terrified of their own success in the future. So as you may actually be coming up against that fear, like, are you actually scared of what your life will look like, or what kind of person you're going to be when you achieve the level of success you want? Like, you may have to, you'll have a new friend group. You may live in a new city. You're going to be totally different to who you are today, because the person you're becoming is very, very different from the person today who struggles to achieve their goals. So this new person and what you're going to be experiencing in life, that may be something that you're actually terrified of. You may not consciously be aware of that, but a cool quote I came across from Fritz Perls, which is the psychiatrist and founder of Gestalt therapy, said that fear is excitement without the breath. So while you may be very fearful of the future, it's actually because you're really excited. So try to reframe that thought in your mind, and that's going to help you with this journey. So first, we're going to take a look at the source of self-sabotage, so you can start to really see this in practice in your own life. A quote from Gay Hendricks from The Big Leap said that each of us has an inner thermostat setting that determines how much love, success, and creativity we allow ourselves to enjoy. When we exceed our inner thermostat setting, or the upper limit, will often do something to sabotage ourselves, causing us to drop back into the old familiar zone where we feel secure. So for example, like you may follow breakthroughs of success that you have, be it making more than you ever thought you did. Maybe you've hit 7 figures in revenue. Maybe, you're finally in a relationship that's working out. Whenever you have a breakthrough of something that you've always wanted, you're going to follow that with bouts of self-punishment. Because if you, for example, before when I was starting a business, my current self was I felt that I was unworthy and not deserving of success. So can you imagine what I would have done if I landed a big job and I still had that fear? I would have found a way to screw it up, because I would think, oh, they only booked me and my crew to paint their house because they felt sorry for me, because maybe I knocked on their door in the middle of winter and it was just like it was a pity thing. Or maybe they are going with me because they think I'm like really underpriced, or they can manipulate me, or like I'd have all these thoughts that would not even allow me to really appreciate and sit with the success. So I would find a way to screw it up. Okay. And that's exactly what happens with this internal thermostat. So it's important to know that when you achieve those higher levels of success and those milestones that you really want, you're often going to create personal dramas in your life that are going to make you unhappy and prevent you from enjoying the new success that you have. Okay? So this is why you really need a different way to transcend yourself from the person you are today to who you're going to be in the future. So I'm super excited to go through helping you. First off, this process will include identifying those sabotaging behaviors in your life so that in the future you can identify the pattern as it's happening and actually short circuit it, so you can take control and make sure that your character doesn't win and you don't self-sabotage, okay? And you can course correct and then keep moving. And as you do this, as you move toward your becoming self, your upper limit is going to go higher and higher and higher, so that your tolerance for happiness, wealth, love, and just everything going well in your life is possible for you. So as you evolve and you have self-awareness and you put into practice some of the things we're going to be talking about to help you manage your downside, that's really how you're going to be able to transcend your current thoughts, beliefs, and identity. Like, this is super important because you really do deserve to experience wave after wave of greater love, creative energy, financial abundance, success, hitting your goals, and really becoming the person you want to become so you can achieve your dream life. And you deserve all of these without the compulsion to sabotage yourself. Okay? If you still don't believe me, or you're having a hard time like grasping how sabotage may show up in your life and the presence of the upper limit and everything, here are some examples, like really common examples of self-sabotage. So maybe at work you've had a big sales week. And after getting a big sales week, you start to get complacent because the things that caused you to, the actions that you took that caused you to have that big breakthrough in sales and get the bonus or whatever, you end up saying, oh, well, I actually just had this big breakthrough, so that's going to keep happening to me. Therefore, I will take my foot off the gas and stop doing the key marketing and sales activities that I have to do to sell, right? To keep that going. And then what happens when you get complacent and you suddenly stop those things that got you that big breakthrough, all of a sudden you are going to experience a slowdown in sales and you don't hit your quota for the month. And all of a sudden you're like, you kick yourself. And so it's that like negative spiral. So you go like, you were really successful and then you made the decision to sabotage that. You didn't consciously make that decision, but your brain's just like, oh, I just had this, so I'm going to take a bit of a break. And that's what causes that to happen. Or maybe you get a big payday, and because you've been really responsible with money over the last couple of weeks, you decide to go on a shopping spree, and all of a sudden you the feeling of, wow, I did such a great job at work, and you feeling super like confident and just really, really good about yourself because you just got into a big payday. All of a sudden you feel super guilty because you went and irresponsibly spent money on things that you actually didn't want. Okay. So that's an example of that. Cheating on your partner is a really good thing. Is not good. It's an example of you self-sabotaging. I sometimes say things that I don't mean, so I'll just correct that. Cheating on your partner is wrong, but that is an example of self-sabotage because you may fear that things are going too well, so you sabotage so that you like have a one-up on your partner or something like that. So again, a lot of these self-sabotage things are not consciously. You're not like, oh gee, I'm gonna go consciously cheat on my partner because I feel too good in the relationship. Okay, so these are impulses that your character gives you to try to control you because it's not comfortable with a specific level of happiness that you have in that area of your life. Okay. I've talked about this with diets and physical activity. Maybe you have a goal to lose weight or to put on muscle at the gym, or you're training for a triathlon, or really, you just don't want brain fog, which we'll get into next module, but you don't want brain fog. You want to be able to wake up not feeling hungover, not feeling groggy. You want to feel great and just be able to attack the day. And you know that pizza and beer makes you feel awful, yet you go and do it anyway. Okay, so that's another idea of self-sabotage. Maybe it's in communication with someone close to you. You lie to break intimacy in your relationship over something, okay? Or it could even be something like staying up late to watch Netflix or finish that movie instead of going to bed on time. So then, again, when you realize the cause-effect relationship of your actions, so it's a negative decision that will hinder your goal. So I consider self-sabotage any destructive or negative behavior you do that has a negative impact against your goals or happiness. So it directly works against what you're trying to create, okay? So let's look at how some of these can actually show up in your life. This is what I call pattern of existence. In terms of in your life, you're going to have sabotage come up in various areas. And I'm going to give you a few examples in my life so that you can see how it plays out. And so that when you go to apply the worksheet to your life, you can identify what some of these behavior patterns are in your life. All right, in this part of the module, we're going to be taking a look at how sabotage really shows up and the different cycles that happen. And I'm going to use me as an example to just talk about how sabotage has shown up in my life in the past. And really, we're going to then end off this module by helping you identify where your patterns are, where you really do, where your like upper level of tolerance is, what your upper limit is, and then what are the behaviors you do to do that. And then we're going to end off the week 2 in the next module by talking about how to actually manage the downside and make sure that you are eliminating these self-sabotage cycles from awareness. So first off, this is an online whiteboard that I like to use. Please do ignore the chicken scratches. But if we look at self-sabotage on a XY axis in terms of a thermostat, okay, so this is typically what the sabotage cycle looks like, okay? So we have like the upper limit and we have the lower limit, okay? And then if we assume that this is 0, again, excuse that it looks like a but there we go. And this is like +1, this is -1, okay? Those don't really matter, but we have cycles. So let me give you a really tangible example of my upper limit for money and what it used to be in my bank account. So the number that I remember when I thought I was rich, I used to have, say, $5,000 in my bank account. And when I hit the $5,000 mark, I felt like I was on top of the world. No one could touch me. And I was kind of set for life. Okay, that was my upper threshold. And when that happened, I would start to do certain behaviors that would creep in. And these behaviors would be things such as I might go on a shopping spree and buy some clothes. Okay, I might treat my friends. I may actually take some time off work and stop selling. I might get complacent. And these actions would eventually have a negative impact on the $5,000 that I would have in my bank account, okay? And so what would happen is I would make these essentially be these behaviors of self-sabotage where it would just creep up and add up to eventually where I got to a point where my like, oh shit number, right? So when I basically spent everything or had only $1,000 in my bank account at that point, at this lowest point, that's my oh shit number for when I'm like, okay, I need to, and this is when like I would stop spending money. I'd look to sell stuff. I'd quickly hustle, see where I can get a few more clients, see where I could just make the extra money. And so I'd go into hustle and grind mode to really start to bring this back up. And I would really, really focus and not spend the money. So I'd take specific actions to get myself back into a situation where I was then feeling like the king with $5,000 in my bank account. Okay. And again, when I hit that number, it was like this cycle all over again. So I could not until I identified this pattern of behavior, I wasn't aware of this cycle. And as soon as I identified the cycle was happening, so that's what we're going to be doing with you very shortly, is that in certain areas, you're going to have this cycle happen with you where you go happiness, unhappy. And there are very specific actions or behaviors or feelings or thoughts that you have that are responsible for bringing you back down to your comfort zone, okay? Where action and where improvement over time happens and how you can like increase your threshold and increase your upper limit for how much you could have in your bank account. The goal is to have actions that if you can be aware of these and stop these behaviors, it's going to gradually bring this up. So instead of 1,000, maybe your lower limit is like, okay, cool. Your lower limit then actually becomes like 4,000, and then your upper tolerance eventually turns into 20,000 in the bank, and then it just keeps going up and up and up. So your ability to have this, you really want less peaks and you want no peaks and troughs. You want more of a straight trajectory that your self-sabotage becomes less pronounced, and over time it just goes linear, right? So that is the goal with this. So that's what I saw with money, is I would have the upper tolerance of, I'd feel like hot shit when I had $5,000 and I would just take my foot off the gas and I'd start to spend a bunch of money. But then I'd panic at 1,000, right? That was my like, oh shit number. So if I also look at like, cool. So if we look at another example that isn't money, but it's in fitness, okay? When I started training for my second Ironman, I actually sabotaged a lot. It was kind of like the bungee jumping example I gave before, where my brain and my body now knows what I'm about to put it through again, and it's resisting that. Okay. So I had a hurdle to get over, but I knew from previous experience with self-sabotage in my fitness that I knew when the actions were happening, and I consciously made the decision to ignore them and choose a different possibility. So in fitness, I know I'm self-sabotaging because if my Ironman training plan for a week says that I need to be in the gym 5 days a week, okay, then I wake up and I let the day get in the way. Okay, so let's just say the intention was I'm going to get up and go to the gym first thing in the morning, but then I wake up late, and then I just jump straight into work, and I tell myself I'll go to the gym later, and later becomes after dinner. After dinner becomes I'm too full because I had all these carbs and wheat, and I just feel blah because I overate, and then suddenly I'm not going to the gym. And then it's like the same repeat the next day. Okay. So eventually in the first few weeks of training, when I did it, I was absolutely resisting my workout schedule because I knew my brain was just like, or my character was like, no, I want to be comfortable. I don't want to do 5 days a week. It's painful. My body hurts, like all these things. But so I knew, for example, my upper limit is when I actually consciously started, I would just say, okay, character, I hear you, but I'm getting off the couch and I'm going to the gym. So going from 0, I would consciously ignore my character, and I would start to get points, right? I would start to ignore my character and take action despite how I felt. And so for 2, 3, 4 weeks, I made every single workout. I did it in full. My coach was like, I'm proud of you, right? But then there got to a point where after 3 to 4 weeks, I'm like, oh, well, I'm actually doing really good. So, I could probably take like 3 days off in a row here. And I started skipping sessions and I started not finishing my workout because I had gained all these like positive points. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like I'm on track for my goal. And so I got complacent. I started skipping sessions. I didn't complete my workout. So complete sessions, workout. And I would like have a week where just my performance was shitty. So I'd have like 3 awesome weeks. Actually, no, let's do this. Like I'd have 3 awesome weeks, and then I'd like offset that week with that next week, which is terrible. So then it put me back to here. So I'd have to like build it back up, and then I'd like sabotage by killing a week again. And it's again like the same cycle. So to have more of a upward trajectory is making the conscious decision not to give in with this. And really it's about being like consistent in the practice. So regardless of how I feel or how many points I thought I'd bank, I need to keep going, right? And just being fully aware of these sabotage cycles, I can eliminate this or drastically reduce that so that I, again, have like an overall trajectory that way, right? So that's just a couple of areas. And another area, if we want to just icing on the cake for this one, is going to be in romance. So in the past, if at the beginning of relationships, it would be honeymoon phase. But then all of a sudden things got too good. Okay? Things got too good. And I felt that's where fear kicks in. And my fear and insecurity at the time with my current self would be, oh no, things are going too well. He's going to blindside me. He's going to break up with me. He's cheating on me. He's lying to me. We're not spending enough time together. And like all these like self-destructive thoughts and patterns. And maybe I would I would convince myself that the guy's not into me. And I would I would like take control of the situation by breaking up with the guy. And it was like, boom, rock bottom, right? And that's like the oh shit moment when, oops, I screwed up and I let my paranoia get in the way of everything. And then maybe you repeat this and so that's why breakup happened. And maybe you like in the cycle of that relationship, maybe you survived it and then, oh, you forgive him. Okay, I'll know for the next time, right? So in love and relationships, you definitely have an upper tolerance for the happiness you're going to allow yourself. So pay attention when things start to go bad. And is it like, what is causing that? What thoughts, behaviors, what thoughts are creeping into your brain? What are you now trying to convince yourself of? Do you have any tangible proof? Like, what can you do to make sure that there's less of this and more of this in the relationship? Okay. So apart from that, thank you for watching my chicken scratches. All right, here's the worksheet from module 2.4, identifying your pattern of existence worksheet. So I just gave 3 pretty in-depth examples of how I, in the past, used to sabotage relationships, money, as well as fitness. And you'll see that these patterns show up in every area of your life. Some are more pronounced than others, but this pattern of existence worksheet, I want you to take away from it and start to you print out a few of these. There should be 1 sheet used per area of your life. So you should start with the area that you are not happy in right now, or in business, because that's what we're talking about today. So another pattern of existence where you can sabotage is, do you ever feel like you're not moving ahead in business or building your audience or having just measurable gains? Well, you're probably sabotaging somewhere. For me, that used to be where I would go some weeks where I felt like I was not making gains toward my goals, right? The week would just fly by and I'd feel like I would get nothing done. But when I look at the decisions I made and really why that happened, it's because I was prioritizing other non-important work, non-essential work. Like maybe I would be in my inbox 5 times a day and that wasn't actually moving the business forward, as opposed to shutting off my phone for 3 hours and focusing on modules or recording webinar or going after like sales and customer acquisition, right? So whatever metrics I found that was going to be the reason were things responsible for moving my business forward, that 80-20 we talked about in the last training, I would find myself doing anything but those actions. And that was another form of self-sabotage. Okay, so we're going to be getting into the focus section in the next module to, if that's something you struggle with, I'll be giving you like practical tactics for how you can overcome that so that you are making sure that you are not sabotaging at work. So, case in point that you want one of these worksheets per area of your life, and leave these around your office anytime because you may not be aware of how you're sabotaging or what some of these behaviors are, but have them by your side so that if you have an area of your life that's going well, then the second a negative thought or you start to take action on something that's actually going against that happiness, write it down. And over the next few days, few weeks, you're going to notice very clear patterns in your life. You have the way that you deal with breakdowns, or when you start to sabotage your happiness, is going to be that you repeat the same kind of behavior over and over again. You have the same way of dealing with self-sabotage. So you have the same destructive behavior. It may be that you beat yourself up when you don't wake up on time. It may be that you ultimately don't feel worthy of happiness, so you're going to sabotage the relationship and end it on something like, there are different behaviors and they all manifest really from the same sort of pool. So if you want like more information or to talk more about that, just tag me in the group. But this is an exercise that's meant to be done not like over a 5-minute period. You're going to discover things as you go through this training, this program, and really start to apply this into parts of your life. But the key that this gives you is self-awareness. And when you have the awareness, you're able to consciously make a decision to control your character, and you'll be able to be on the lookout when your character is trying to destroy your momentum and happiness. Okay?